exit lane to lane, disappear like David Blaine. Paid cash for the car, then crash.
This episode has been brought to you by the great guys from Beers&Beards. Drink responsibly.
Have fun. Don't be foolish. Talk football. You want me to ask the questions? I can ask the questions.
Nah, man, listen, this is a free-form show.
I'm going to ask the question.
You come up with 3 whole different questions.
I like these questions, though. First question. Are the Kansas City Chiefs, the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, the best team in football?
Well, I know what my answer is going to be. And I got a good idea that I know what your answer is going to be.
I know what their answers are going to be, unless they are fans of Kansas City.
I disagree, man. I think more of our fans are convinced that Kansas City is not only for real, but the best team in football. I think there's more people out there that believe that than we think.
I don't believe the fans do. I think the average fan is still going to say the Broncos, the Seahawks,
the Saints.
Maybe the Saints, maybe the Niners. I think the average football fan, aside from those people who have a rooting interest in the Kansas City Chiefs, still isn't sold. The competition at times has been a little suspect.
Yep.
The defense is phenomenal. The offense is, they're not exactly pedestrian. They're more creative than people give them credit for.
Yeah.
But best team in football, that's a hard sell. They're undefeated. So I understand, that they warrant consideration. I can't go there. You can't go there. I don't think most of those guys are going there.
Can we go Daniel Bryan on them? Is this a no?
That's where I'm at. Maybe not quite as emphatically, because I do think, obviously, they warrant a place in the conversation.
Yeah.
And if you're a Kansas City fan and you say that they are the best team in football, they have the best record, so I probably can't win that argument with you. I do believe you're wrong. You're wrong.
Because realistically, Kansas City hasn't played Denver yet. Or San Diego yet.
The Denver matchups will be very, very tough. Now, let me go ahead and say this. If the Kansas City Chiefs handle the Denver Broncos, well, then maybe I've seen the light. Maybe then I come around on this argument. That's something I would like to see first, how that game pans out.
I mean, do you think Kansas City's the best team in their division? No.
I don't.
And I don't think most people do, but I think there are a lot more people that believe in Kansas City than outside of Chiefs fans than we think.
I don't know. Let us know. Let us know and make sure if you're chiming in and you say that, yes, they're the best team in football, make sure to let us know whether you're a fan of the team or you're a fan of some other team and you just happen to believe that the unbeaten Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in football. Next question makes my eyes hurt just thinking about it.
Oh.
How bad was the Monday Night Football game between the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants?
That game was atrocious on both sides of the field, man. The only thing I can say is that even though the Giants got the win, at least we know with Minnesota they will improve. It might not matter, but they will improve, and you never know. But with the Giants, their rushing attack is just in shambles. And I know Peyton Hill has put it on his back.
Came in Wednesday and maybe put up the best performance on the team.
Hey, kudos to whoever picked up Peyton Hillis in their fantasy league.
He only had like 36 yards, though.
Well, that's 36 more than David Wilson or Brandon. I got Brandon Jacobs on one of my teams. I'm still trying to figure out why I picked him up. I mean, realistically, the game was bad.
It was awful.
It was ugly.
The New York Giants won.
Yeah.
And the Minnesota Vikings lost, and everybody who likes good football lost. If you somehow, for some reason, stay tuned in to watch that, it was woeful. I didn't like the idea going in of starting Josh Freeman at quarterback. He'd been there less than 2 weeks, and I felt bad for the guy. I mean, that was just awkward. You could tell they were completely and totally, I want to say out of sync, but they've never been in sync. He just got there. It seemed to me that team is already struggling. I mean, it's a tough year for the Vikings. They're in a bad place. I just felt like they really put Freeman in a terrible situation, and things played out accordingly.
I agree. I think Frazier wanted to let not only Freeman but also Vikings Nation know that Freeman was going to be their guy going ahead. And also he wanted to let the other quarterbacks from the team know that that's where he was looking. That's what he was thinking. Realistically, though, man, I don't think Castle's been doing a bad job. So I think Castle may have got the start, but if correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Christian Ponder suited up for that game?
He was, and I mean, let's be real. I'm no fan of Ponder, and when you talk about putting him at quarterback for a team that has Adrian Peterson, this is starting to really resemble the Barry Sanders story, and it's no more fun to watch now than it was then. But anyhow, when you compare the running attack and the passing attack, Ponder was not a sound option at quarterback, to say the very least, but I have to think he would have been better than what we saw on Monday night.
Yeah, I agree. I think Castle would have been way better. I think Castle would have won in the game. Not Ponder, but Castle.
I agree. What's up with all the injuries?
Man, I think the long short of it is NFL's got soft. I think with all these rules that they putting in place to try to protect the players, it's kind of backfiring. I mean, I don't see these players actually being protected in any kind of way. I think that it has limited the gameplay. The product that we're seeing is not the same NFL that we saw 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And if the whole goal of it is to make the players last longer, well then it's not working. Now, it may be the off season because they're not conditioned properly, but realistically, there are like way too many stars missing from their team. And I don't know. What you think it is?
Well, first off, when you start talking about things like football and politics, a lot of times as people, we do the same thing that we often find fault with the media for doing, and that's we make knee-jerk decisions, we react quickly, and to a certain extent that's to be understood, but just simply from a scientific approach, I don't know if there's enough data yet to really tie the rash of injuries we've seen to what's transpiring this year in particular in the NFL. It may be too soon to jump to those kinds of conclusions. Having said that, I'm going to do it anyway. I do think the off-season, the lack of prep and the lack of time to get one's body in shape for what is a brutal game. I mean, as much as they clean it up, and is it getting softer? Absolutely. Is it still a dangerous contest? It certainly is. So that's still going to be there. But the rules, for me, I really wonder if there is something in the air in 2013, and if the injuries we're seeing, if it is more than we've ever seen before. I don't know statistically if that holds up or really how to compare that, but if it is that big of a problem, I really wonder about the rules, because this is a game where for years and years and years, we know that these guys played with sort of a gentleman's agreement that I'm not going to take your knees out. All right, I'm not going to hit you in the knees or really below the knees. Well, now that this concussion thing has gotten to be such a problem for the NFL, the thing that we're restricting or outlawing is the shot to the head. So the gentleman's agreement about I'm not going to go low and take your knees out doesn't stand anymore. Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of ACL injuries, a lot of back, knee, groin. You have to wonder, as we protect the head and as we try to avoid concussions, are we putting the legs and the lower body in greater jeopardy? And
I think so.
That could be what's going on here. Fourth down, we had 3 questions. Let's go ahead and take a fourth down here and add another question in the mix.
Beers&Beards first.
We're talking about all these injuries. And again, this week, I don't know if I'm missing anybody or not, but Bradford went down. He's done for the year. Cutler is down for 4 weeks or so with the groin tear. Doug Martin may be out for the year. It's a torn something in the shoulder. A lot of injuries there. Arian, I think, is not as serious. Which of those injuries is the most damaging to the team?
It's got to be Cutler, because the Bears were, they weren't in a commanding position to get into the playoffs or a big favorite. But you got to figure if he's gone 4 to 6 weeks and they got Josh McCown starting, you could imagine how pissed I was. Cutler's one of my fantasy quarterbacks in a different league. With knowing McCown's out there, I mean, that doesn't instill any type of confidence in Bears fans. I'm not even sure how Josh McCown got a contract or how he's got a job right now. Because at what point in his career in the NFL was he ever good? I'm just saying. So I think that even without Cutler, 4 games, that's just 4 games. You think that's just 4 games, but they're probably going to lose all 4 of those games because they got McCown out there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're probably right, and I think it's because we're going to look at where they are in the division and exactly what they have to lose. Because let's face it, I mean, right now they are neck and neck with the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay. They're all sitting at 4-3 or 4-2. So we're talking about a tough race. And while all of those injuries are problematic, and you certainly don't want to be the St. Louis Rams seeing Bradford done for the year.
That's true.
Right now, in a 3-way race for the division lead, in a tough division, that's a team that cannot afford to lose the quarterback. I mean, the other teams we mentioned right now, none of those teams are really in contention for much of anything. Chicago is contending for the division crown and a shot at the playoffs. They have a lot more to lose. I agree with the backup situation. He can move the ball, but I don't know if he can win football games. Nah. Chicago's in trouble.
I mean, I know they got the bye week, but then they come back in Green Bay, loss. They're playing Detroit. And Matthew Stafford is probably one of the quarterbacks we could rely on to put up points in the NFL.
Because he throws it 40 to 50 times a
to
game.
Megatron. They're losing that. Without Cutler, there's no way they're winning that game. Even with the defense. Even if the defense plays out of their friggin' mind, they're still losing that game.
Even Hester gets another return. You see the big return this weekend?
I did. And if Hester gets 3 returns, they would need Hester to get 3 returns. The defense to return a pick 6, and to have just an outstanding performance on defense for them to win that game, I think, without Cutler.
Not happening.
Baltimore, that's another one of the games that's in the next 4 that probably wraps it up. And I think that one, who knows, man. Baltimore may have their stuff together by then, but man, I just think it's looking really bad in Chicago right now.
Yeah, that's the truth of the matter. They are in a position where they can't suffer much of a loss at that position. They can't really suffer any loss, and obviously, that's what happened. That's our 3-question segment. You got a 4th down today. Lucky you. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Henny.
And this is Beers
and Beards.